The Fearless Podcast, in a time of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act. All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Fearless Podcast. This is episode 34, and I'm flying solo today. The boys are out working in the field, and not in the crop field or with the cows. They're actually doing some construction work through that company they set up. So I'm flying solo, but I am really pumped because I have an awesome guest, and I can almost promise you, much to everyone's chagrin, that you've probably never heard of my next guest. He's a very awesome guy. He's a great researcher. He's written some incredible books, and that's how I stumbled across him, was through his books. And he agreed to come on the Fearless Podcast today. I wanted to welcome y'all to Barry James Dyke. Hey, Barry, how you doing today?
I'm great today, TD. Yeah, who said that? In times of universal deceit, telling the truth. I think it was George Orwell, wasn't it?
That's an Orwell quote. Yes, sir. It's so appropriate in postmodern America. I thought that was a great way to to start the podcast.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we're living very Orwellian times, TD.
Yeah, and that's, that really is what brings me to your books. For those of you that don't know, I do have a financial background, and I went to government school, and then I went to government college. Because I was that generation. I was born in 75, and your program, go to school to get a good education so that you get a good job, so that you can retire with a pension. And then that whole pension thing kind of changed in my childhood. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. And that's kind of what the Pirates of the Caribbean. I'm sorry, I just said the Pirates of the Caribbean. The Pirates of Manhattan is all about. And Barry, maybe that's how we can open up. You wrote this first book, The Pirates of Manhattan. And who are the pirates?
Well, it's essentially Wall Street. The Pirates of Manhattan are essentially, I call it's really kind of expanded to the asset management industrial complex, if you will. So right. not just the Wall Street banks, but all the the mutual fund companies, the hedge funds, the private equity firms, which are really kind of been taking over everyone's savings. And anyway, so I make a long story short, if people read the book, go to barryjamesdyke.com. It's still TD today. Still, I'm amazed. I get orders from all around the world on the book. And but in any event, it's really about how Wall Street controls and asset managers control everybody's savings. And the irony of the whole thing, there's a guy by the name, I've never heard of a guy by the name of Louis Brandeis. There's Brandeis University in Massachusetts, and he ended up becoming, he was this very, he was a brilliant, sophisticated Jewish entrepreneur, whistleblower type of guy for the time. And he wrote a book called Other People's Money, and which was published in 1914. And the funny thing is, TD, nothing's really changed. Okay, it's actually probably gotten worse. The only difference is now we have internet and four-wheel drive vehicles and what have you, yeah. But I think people are dumber. I think people were smarter 100 years ago, but that's just my opinion.
Well, so what happened to me, I went to college to get this good job. I was a business admin major. I had a minor in finance. And here I am. I'm working as an intern for a very large financial planning firm. And I'm in my different investing classes, and my Keynesian college professor, well, first they tell me about GDP and national debt, and as long as the GDP is greater than the national debt, everything's cool. And I'm like, well, that doesn't even make common sense. The second thing that she mentioned, we argued about that, but I have a tendency to do that. But the second thing that she mentioned is she said 98% of all investments fail. And I said, wait a minute. Like, that can't be true, because there's all these brokerage houses. There's all these financial planners and retirement experts. And statistically, how can 98% of all investments fail? So long story short, I graduate and do all that good stuff. And I'm at this financial planning firm. I'm a junior partner. Well, I'm the guy doing the prep for all the annual reviews because we charged an annual planning fee. We did annually or quarterly planning, whatever. So I would use a software called Morningstar Principia Pro.
Oh,
And it would do the stock overlap and all stuff. And we were our practice was almost no stocks, almost exclusively mutual funds. And what I started seeing was all this hokey pokey with the big fund families and their 5-star funds. They would stuff their 5-star funds with their 1-star funds that were against the asset allocation. And I'm like I said, this is the definition of a Ponzi scheme. Like it's not in the asset class. This is a total, and it's one of the top 10 holdings in this particular asset class, and it's a completely different asset class, and it's the same fund family. I'm like, that's when the light bulb went off for me, and I'm like, wow, this whole thing is a Ponzi scheme, and it's a scam, and they're scamming everybody. And so that's how I stumbled across it in a very layman way. I certainly don't have the amount of I'm a street smart kid. I'm not really like intellectually smart. Certain concepts are a little bit harder for me to explain or teach to others. And that's what I really love about your books. They're very easy to understand. Your research is impeccable, and all your books are like the facts are there, the quotes are there, the charts are there, the proof's in the pudding, the numbers don't lie, and you just went right down and you basically that small little portion of it that I stumbled across. I mean, you've exposed that to the next level where it's institutional, and really, these pirates, they've kind of hijacked all things fiat, so to speak.
Yeah. TD, there's no question about it. And I think I'm so grateful we live in a great country that we do. I certainly don't want to live in a place like Mexico or anywhere at this point. But the tragedy is, and this is what Brandeis said in 1914, is the quick capital of others, essentially how Wall Street gets ahead. So essentially, it's always about gambling with other people's money. And and people say, well, read all my books, and I say, look at folks, this is all you have to really know is that they're gambling with the other people's money, and there's no accountability, and actually a friend of mine who just reviewed one of my next books. I'm coming out with 2 books in 24, by the way, which is
okay.
So I'm at that age now where I want to get this stuff out into the media, but to help people. But this friend of mine who's I have a following. I have a separate planning business with pilots. I have a following with airplane pilots called the Prosperous Pilot. But one of these pilots who read the book is also a very good friend of mine, and he flies all these high-end executives around the world and stuff. But he said after reading the book, he said what amazes me, the corruption is still so big, and there's no accountability.
Yep. Not only is the corruption so big and there's no accountability, they're guaranteed by the government and all the other forces that work together that they can't fail. So they're insured in a sense that they can't fail because they'll get printed out of the mess that they create. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And this is kind of getting ahead of the Pirates 3, which we released later this summer. Okay. But to get ahead, how much banks, international banks and asset managers have paid in fines since 2011, TD? Just take a guess how much they've paid in fines.
Since 2011. So we're talking about,
20 years.
Yeah. 100 billion, 200 billion.
About a third of $1 trillion, more than a third of $1 trillion.
Wow. Yeah, you get to, it's pay to play,
Yeah, and the whole thing is that it's the people don't realize, but the shareholders who own these banks, okay, and it is whether it be Bank of America or J.P. Morgan, whatever, that Wells Fargo, fraud, whatever, It's actually it's the corporation's write-off is an operating expense, and right. And then the shareholders are the ones who really pay for it.
Yeah.
So so it's just was it, I think Morgan Stanley it was Morgan Stanley this past week or two. Okay, you couldn't make this stuff up. Okay, they get fined $250 million for fraudulent block trades, essentially trading against their customers.
Right.
So here's one of the largest investment banks in the United States. No question, TD. Okay, if people don't believe me, Google it. Morgan Stanley gets paid $249 million for block trades, essentially trading against their own clients, and no one goes to jail.
Right. Not only that, they paid that small fine, but if truth be known, they made several $1 billion or maybe $100 billion off the transaction. So who cares if you have to pay a small fee to participate? Because that's really what it is. They're paying a fee so that they can participate in the thievery.
Yeah. And so, but the irony of the whole thing too, TD, which is really, and people don't believe me, they can go to Yahoo and figure this out. I'm not making this stuff up, is that you go on to, let's say BlackRock, okay, which is the largest asset manager in the world. Mm-hmm. Go to Yahoo Finance, .com and put in BlackRock and go in and look at who the major shareholders are. Now BlackRock, which is the largest asset manager in the world, is actually owned by other mutual fund companies.
Yeah.
And they're all passive. So they're kind of like, I call them communist funds. So they don't do anything, okay?
Right.
So Vanguard or State Street or Invesco or I forget, there's I'll think of it probably later, but or Fidelity or something like that. They're all own shares of the company, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And actually, as of this week, officially talk about Morningstar, there's more money in passive in ETFs and mutual funds than any active management. So it's this wolves in sheep's clothing,
Yeah, and you can't even explain this stuff. I just stumbled across a guy on Twitter. His name is Ian Carroll, and he's real big on TikTok. And he just demonstrated some unanimous guy on Reddit has compiled all these numbers, right? And he proposes it as this concept called megacorp, and he shows you BlackRock, Blackstone, State Street, and he shows this guy did the cross mapping of all these transnational mega corporations, and all of them, like, so he goes into big ag, big food, all the technocratic categories, right? And they show the overlap, and basically they all own each other. So there's very small personal shares owned by the
yeah, that's right. Well,
yeah. So we own a very small portion, and everything else is all cross ownership by these transnational corps. All their CEOs are paid in stock dividends. So when they do all these mergers and acquisitions, and when they do all these buybacks, they're stuffing their pockets, relatively speaking, totally tax-free. I mean, they're making hundreds of millions a year tax-free, and they're sloshing money back and forth between each other. And meanwhile, what happens is that small sector of the shareholders, like the average people that are actually in the market, that's where all that capital is siphoned off, and it goes into this big swirling tank of control. So that OPM, they've extracted other people's money. And that's why I've been saying the stock market is nothing more than a redistribution of wealth. And we hear all this new speak in, postmodern America about your fair share and redistribution. And, now we got to redistribute.
ESG.
Yeah. ESG and DEI, and we got to transfer all this stuff. And they've already extracted. That's why they have to continue to create derivatives. And now these new derivatives is they're going to try to monetize the soil, and they're going to maybe through their central bank digital currency or whatever, they're going to assign a value to the biome in your soil. So, you'll own nothing and be happy. You won't even own the biomass in your soil that produces food for you. And they'll somehow monetize it and extract it, and they're going to, well, how are they going to do that? Carbon credits, they're going to be like, oh, you have so many square feet of dirt, that dirt's bioavailability is X. So if you like that dirt, if you like your dirt and you want to keep your dirt, here, if you pay this carbon credit, then you can keep your dirt, It's wild.
Yeah. So gee, that's going on. So, a lot of the stuff is just, the beauty of the internet, okay, is that you can research, you can verify everything, because even the research I've done, on the next two books, 20 years ago, you couldn't have done this, what I've done now. I mean, it's just, but unfortunately also they put up a lot of paywalls now. And so, but I subscribe to a lot of journals and things like that. And so to verify everything, but what has happened, this whole sexual crap, but anyway, I think one of the biggest issues today, TD, is really economic inequality. And, and I'm a capitalist. I own a business. You're an entrepreneur. I've owned businesses for, I hate to say it, 40 years. And so I'm a small businessman. I get it. Okay. I know what it's like to maintain a payroll and all this crazy stuff, as you know, to maintain a business. But they've really really crushed the little guy. And they have done that. And so, but they're doing it with other people's money. And so, which kind of leads me into the book I'll be coming out in, which actually I just got an email from one of my editors that another version I'll look at it on Saturday, which is done. But this whole cryptocurrency craze, what a scam that one was.
It's so, I've had a lot of friends. I've been researching it a long time. I'll never understand it. And I've always had great reservation because, once you see the stock market's a scam, and I got out in 2008 and I've never put a penny back in. Once you see that's a scam, it really makes the whole crypto and all these other bogus coins. And it's all just, they call one Ethereum, and it's literally, they grab the ether and they put a name on it, and then they put a dollar amount to it. It is so completely artificial. It's a complete derivative. And then, there's tons of Bitcoin guys, and they'll say, hey man, but this is just like, it's a monicum of exchange and everything else, but it's just as a derivative, and it's just as contrived as all these other synthetic derivatives, whether it's collateralized debt obligations or mortgage-backed securities. It's the same exact concept, philosophy, and intent, and there's nothing there, and there's no store of value. Gold has a store of value. Hey, this will go right into a great conversation because you mentioned it. You're a capitalist. I'm a capitalist. And one of the points that I try to make is, we say we're capitalists. We talk about capitalism, but what is capital? My definition of capital, relatively speaking, is savings, right? That's your capital. You have to be a saver. You have to accrue and acquire and stockpile capital, right, in order to be able to invest, right? And that's where it's all, and and we're both whole life guys, so we get it. But maybe talk about capital. I mean, I think that's so lost on a modern.
Well, yeah. Well, unfortunately, in America today, and actually, I forget the statistic on it. Maybe I can pull this up right now. Savings. It's one of my manuscripts. Let me see if I can pull this up. Savings rate, so I can share this with you. Now, the whole thing is that savings rate. All right, it's maybe another. Let's see. But I know offhand. Maybe hang on 1 second. Anyway, I've got the latest figures, TD. This will be coming out of the books, but I do know one thing. So we have two problems. First of all, we have a savings rate, and America doesn't say. People don't say. I mean, if you really look at there's a organization called Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development based out of Paris, but it's nonpartisan, essentially pure research stuff, which I kind of lap up, you know. So if you really look at the true savings rate in America, roughly it's, I think Norway, they say maybe 20% of their income, you know, but the U.S. is, I think maybe we're 3 during the 2008, 2007, we were actually negative. So it's horrible. And there's a huge difference between savings and investing. You got to save before you invest. Okay. Yep. But America is, you got to put everything in the market, 401k, and everything's locked up for the next 20, 30 years. And, you know, so we have a horrific savings rate, but we also have horrible retirement plans. Now, there's a study done by Mercer, and this is not me, so this will be in the book, okay? Mercer out of Australia. They do it each year. They look at the retirement plan preparedness. And you know where the US of A stands, TD, in the top 20?
I do, because I've listened to some of your interviews, but it's 19.
Oh, yeah, we're 19. We're sandwiched between Hong Kong and Guatemala or something like that. So Nicaragua, you know, so the whole thing, if you're right at the top, okay, things are sweet, man. You're making, average CEO makes about 15, 16 million a year right now. So they don't have to worry about anything because they can just spend down their stuff. They never have to worry about it. But for the average person, we're horrific, you know, and our retirement plans are horrible. Now, one of the most disturbing things about the Mercer report is that in terms of integrity, you know, in terms of honesty, if you will, we were ranked the worst.
Wow. And that brings up a really good point, because I heard you mention it. You know, we're forced, so to speak, to invest in a 401k. And I'm old enough to remember, and I was in college and all this stuff. You know, I remember when the 401k came out, the 401k was only pitched as a supplement, because predominantly back then, many, not most, but many people had defined benefit packages, right? And this 401k opportunity was only to supplement that. That was supposed to be for supplementary investing above and beyond your defined benefits package. And then they were like, wait a minute, this is a really great extraction tool where we can steal everybody's money. So if we just flip the script and change the game, and we go from defined benefit and force all this money into the market, we'll be able to just take everybody's money.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And actually, I don't know if you've seen the movie I was in, The Baby Boomer Dilemma.
I have not seen that. I'll check it out.
Yeah, people go check out you can check out the trailer, boomermovie.com. I mean, it was, you know, Ted Bennett was a friend of mine, the guy who actually created the 401k.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, Ted's a great guy. He's like 80 and he's still going strong. But so the whole 401k, which he developed in 79 or something like that, it was only meant to be like an ornament on a Christmas tree. All right. You know, the whole retirement plan is supposed to be a defined benefit pension in Social Security, which are annuities, which are contracts. So, you know, make a long story short, then we go on this different, but any event. So that whole change, because back then, TD, a defined benefit plan maybe cost 7, 8, 9% of payroll to really fund a true retirement plan. Whereas if you can get into a 401k, it's going to only cost you maybe 4 or 5%. Okay. And not only that, when you put in all the money in the 401k, there's no risk.
Right.
Okay?
Exactly.
So they can buy the politicians. So you tell people to put these money into target date funds, which they did in 2006, to say, as long as people buy target date funds, there's no risk to the employer or the asset manager. So they guarantee the income flow, and there's no risk.
Yeah. Well, why wouldn't you do that?
Why wouldn't you do that? So I can take my 30 million out, or like Larry Fink, 35 million out in stock from BlackRock, and be taxed at very low rates. So that's what happened. So this is essentially greatly reduced the cost. And number two is that, and they've given all the control of those savings to Wall Street through through mutual funds primarily, whether it be active or passive. And so people don't even understand this. But I think roughly about 80% of the money goes into target date funds, which I've written a book about it. And go to barryjames.com. I wrote my second book called The Highway to Serfdom. To this day, I still don't understand these books. Oh, you have there? Okay, so that's what I wrote on target date funds. So these are the primary investment today.
And I work for a fee-based financial planner, CLU, CHFC, CRPC. He had every letter of the alphabet behind his name. We charge an annual planning fee. He would sell loaded target funds inside a wrap account and charge an annual fee. And he made sure that they had 12B1 fees. And I mean, people were paying 8 or 9% probably in addition to their annual fee. And it was very Wall Street-esque. It was robbery, in my opinion.
Yeah. So unfortunately, it's gotten worse, TD, which I didn't think it could. But what has happened now is it has. And so what you have, so the employers and major employers, whether it be in Texas or anywhere in this country, so they have people who are lucky that they get a match in their 401k. But conversely, the government employees, which we should have all been like teachers or firefighters, with all due respect, and I love these folks, but so some of these government retirement plans, and Texas is a big one. You get the Texas teachers and the whole thing. So I'm not making anything up now. Whereas some of these retirement plans are costing maybe 20-30% of payroll to fund the defined benefit. So the average citizen gets a Yugo for a 401k, but a lot of your public employees, they're getting Mercedes.
Yeah, Porsches.
Or Maybachs, So it's a tough one, and so this is what's happening. So so I'm just trying to passion it because this will not end well in the end.
I think it's a good segue. Maybe you could talk about, because many people are completely unaware of this, and then other guys like Dave Ramsey go out of their way to kind of bash whole life just because they're, I think, willingly ignorant. But maybe we could talk a little bit about Boley and Coley and what these banks and corporations, where they do put their money.
Yeah.
Well, the money they've extracted from us, and then where they put it. Do you want to?
Well, yeah. Well, that was kind of, it's kind of God. I'm a Christian, so God's the most important thing in my life. But anyway, so I had to reinvent myself. I went through a horrific divorce and all this stuff. But I have, I have wonderful kids, and my ex-wife did a great job with the kids. But anyway, so I had to reinvent myself, and I understood that some of the only things that really worked were annuities, insurance, TD, and I stumbled upon this 20 years ago, anyhow. That how banks owned, I heard some about banks and the really rich owning these huge life policies. Now at the time, so I started doing research. This is when I had to put like a Visa card with the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. You had to pay $5 for every article you got on, so, but I hadn't really had much money. So I just so I started researching it. So then I knew enough people, and I had friends in the American College, and so I started reading about this stuff, and no one would talk to me. So I was like, so I knew these large insurance companies, whether Mass Mutual, New York Life, or Northwestern, whatever, they're doing a lot of it. But I called up some of the brokers who were doing this work, but no one would speak to me about it. Mm-hmm. So I just started studying the banking. This is how I got started studying the banking system. And when I discovered that banks own all this stuff. Now, no one would talk to me. But anyway, so I met this, or actually over the phone, never met this woman from the FDIC. This, I think it was an African-American woman. She was so sweet and kind to me. And I said, this is what I'm looking for. And she said, well, this is how you down, because I was just doing this on my own. I had nothing, no one to back me up. I had no net. And I was like, and then I figured out how to download the information from the FDIC. So it was back in 2006, I found the banks, JP Morgan, Wells Fargo, any of the banks, the people know me for that. They're all Bank of America, okay? They all own major portions of their own, the Tier 1 capital, which is the most important asset in any bank. They house the money with life insurance companies. Now, to this day, TD, now I came up with this fact. So 2007 was this. So what are we now? 24 now. So it was how many years? 17 years ago?
Yep.
All right. I reported on this 17 years ago, and that's why you had the first Pirates book, right?
Yep.
So I researched that in 2006. Okay, that's the first one, okay? To this day, the media will not acknowledge this. And it's a fact. And I would testify in court, and I testify in Congress in front of this, but it's a fact. So all these major banks all put a huge portion of their money in life insurance companies. And why do they do that? Well, they're not stupid. They're always putting $25 billion of their money into something which is bad for them. They're doing it because of the guarantees. They get the tax law as the cash values increases, it flows to their income stream, and so that adds pennies per share for the share price. They know everyone's going to die, so the money comes into them income tax free. They know it's very stable to fund deferred compensation agreements and so forth. So I just stumbled into it, and I just started digging. And so it's a BOLI, which is bank-owned life insurance, which is a huge component of the financial system. Now, what is amazing, what I also discovered, even like the Federal Reserve Bank, which is the central bank of the United States, this is where 75% of their 401k is in fixed annuities.
Yep. Wow. That's weird. They don't need 8% or 12%.
Yeah. So the whole thing, Dave Ramsey says you're 12%, which is a bunch of fooey. I mean, I agree with him about the debt, TD.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I agree with him about the debt. I mean, that's what's going to kill this country. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
It's debt. I agree with him. Okay. But the whole idea about whole life or annuities being bad is total disregard for the facts.
And I think what the most enlightening and encouraging thing about all of this information, as kind of wild and as horrific, and to see the control, the most fascinating thing to me is that you and I, we have access to these same contracts, and we can fund these exact same contracts. We can reap much of the exact same benefit. And I think it's rather miraculous that we can still participate on this level with whole life insurance, that this hasn't been systematically removed from our access. And that I think is the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, is that once we learn about the COLI and BOLI, is that, yeah, this is what the big banks are doing. This is what the megacorps are doing. This is how they, a lot of them, this is a way that they pay their CEOs. I think it was Jim Harbaugh, when he was at one of the colleges, they paid him. It was a big multi-million-dollar contract, and it was basically either a whole life or an annuity policy. And that's how he was paid. And there's so many it's a very brilliant design, and we have access. We can participate and put together these type of strategies and implement them, and they're not on the top shelf, and we can't reach them.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Unfortunately, what has happened is, have you heard of Gresham's Law, TD?
Yes.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, what we have, the Gresham's Law, essentially, it was Sir Thomas Gresham. The law was bad money drives out good. Mm-hmm. So this is what we're pretty much seeing throughout the savings space today. So the really good stuff, the whole lot from the mutual companies, and so people, if they're going to be doing this, they should only do it with mutual companies and fraternal companies. Because anytime you let Wall Street get their hands on piles of money, you can be pretty much insured of corruption. So, so with a mutual company generally, or fraternal companies, you essentially, as an owner or policyholder, you own part of the company. Now, they have to be an insurance company. They businesses like everyone else. They have to make profits. But my point is that you enjoy part of the profits. Is truly a mutual thing. Now, so really, if people do that, they can do that. Now, the problem with Gresham's Law is that Wall Street is taking over so many insurance. The amount of insurance companies now, TD, in the United States is roughly about, life companies roughly around 750. Okay, I forget the exact numbers, but out of those, only maybe about 160 I would deal with, with your, mutual or fraternal organization. So most of the stuff I wouldn't buy it.
Sure. Yeah. No, I understand. And that's why your third book is great. The Guaranteed Income book. And, I just encourage everybody, you can buy this 3-book package on Barry James Dyke's website. It's Dyke with a Y, and start looking at this stuff. He has all the documentation. He has the data there. He has the source. He has the quotes. He's done the research for you. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And, we still have, all we can control is what we do. You know what I mean? And I'm a Christian as well. And I believe in being a good steward and maximizing and leaving a legacy. We started out when we moved to Texas is we kind of changed. We had a paradigm shift, and we wanted to live a slower, more intentional life, more agrarian. And one thing that me and my wife had the vision to do is we want to provide for our children in their lifetime, their legacy, their inheritance. So what if instead of just stockpiling all this stuff in some type of tax deferred account that you can't touch without penalty and all this other stuff, right? What if we accumulated real estate and dirt, right? And then if we get out of debt and we're cash flow positive and we have real estate, and then in our children's lifetime, we can say, hey, here's a little plot of land. Here's 5 acres. Here's 10 acres. Let's work together to see what you can make of it. Right. And then we can participate in that in real time, in a real way, where it's the exact opposite of this completely synthesized life. It's OPM. What's fascinating to me when we talk about other people's money is I'm sure you know who Robert Kiyosaki is. So,
it's a small world. Matter of fact, I have a good friend of mine just co-authored a book. Ted Sedelli's The Whistleblower, and he just wrote a book on the Who Stole My Pension. Kiyosaki's great.
Yeah, and I was a real big fan of Kiyosaki. And in the beginning, in the first couple of books, it would all be about OPM and leverage. And now it is a completely different world, because it is a completely different world. And it's about hard assets, real estate, and these different things. So it's interesting to even watch how Kiyosaki's focus has shifted to real assets. And, and that's why I think your new crypto book is going to be really cool, because a lot of people want to stay relevant with this crypto thing, and it's cool, and it's blockchain, and it's, this is a parallel thing. I don't see it as that. I think it's a scam, but I think it's going to be cool, because I think your book's going to dive into that. Correct?
Yeah. Well, the whole thing is that the crypto. I don't know if you read the research. There was some guy in Japan in 2008. The Sun guy, whatever, some guy, Satoshi Sun or whatever it was.
Nakamoto or whatever.
Yeah. So we still don't know. Is there such a guy? Is it one person? Is it a group person? We still don't know. No one really knows.
CIA,
whatever it is. We don't really know. So that's how it's shared. And if it reminds me of the tulip bubble in the Netherlands in the 16th or 17th century, whatever. Same thing. So, but this is the thing in Pew Research now. This is not me. Pew Research released a study about a year ago, and we're 75% of the population, the American population, this is Pew, not me, doesn't understand and doesn't really trust cryptocurrencies. 75% of the American public, okay? They don't trust it. Then we have the collapse of FTX and all these. I mean, There's so many of them, and all these stable value, Terra Luna, and they go bankrupt. Not go bankrupt. Essentially, they lose all their value. So 75% of the population doesn't trust them. All these companies go bankrupt. Over 9 billion losses alone with FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried. But what happens last week? What happened last week, TD? Do you know?
Was it the Bitcoin ETF?
Yep. So most people don't trust it, but it went ahead anyway. And most of the the Financial Times, I was reading it last night. I think Financial Times quoted that BlackRock and Fidelity got like close to 700-800 million each flow and this new speculative product because they want something else for people to gamble with. So 75% of the population have seen these incredible bankruptcies. And the amazing thing about this TD is supposedly these all sophisticated investors, okay, New York guys like Tiger Global Management or Thoma Bravo private equity firm or the Canadian Pension Plan or Westcap private equity, they poured billions into this crap.
Yeah,
and it went bust.
Yeah,
there was no due diligence.
Yeah, and it's just it appears to me to just be like another paper cutout wash. That there was that little small bank, I think it was in Maine, that was wrapped up with FTX, and they had never managed more than $10 million, and then they magically somehow become involved with FTX, and within weeks they're managing like over 50 million. And it's all part of this Ponzi wash scheme. And like, where can we send all of this money to wash it and make it disappear? And it literally disappears. It literally vanishes and it's gone. And we watch it over and over again. And then you hear all of these when it comes to Bitcoin and, well, this is blockchain and it's private and it's open source. So this is a real autonomous way, and this is completely parallel, and this is how we're going to fix it. This is the solution. And but meanwhile, the government is buying enormous hordes of Bitcoin. All of they, them, and those, and the powers that shouldn't be, and all the State Street, BlackRock, Blackstone, they're all Vanguard, they're all participating in this exact same thing. And it's just like, to me, this is just another derivative. It looks like another derivative. You have this inordinate swell of value predicated upon absolutely nothing. And then of course you have huge fluctuations on quote unquote speculation, which is it's just part of this wealth redistribution. And they call these fluctuations, which are the wealth transfers, well, and it's so hilarious because they always blame the speculators. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I mean, that's just, they just prey on people's ignorance. Like, this has nothing to do with the speculators. This is a systematic transfer of wealth by design. This is the way it's set up on purpose.
Yeah. So what you're trying to do is really get the message out there, really. So what people really need, they need to essentially reinforce their own balance sheet. You talk about their agrarian, we almost have to get back to the future. Now, the amazing thing is, and I'll get this, and I can't let the cat out of the bag, but and I get into, you ever hear of a little company called IBM?
Yes. International Business Machines.
Yes. A little company in Armonk, and one of the largest computers, one of the funded by the Watsons. In any event, you know what they did January 1st, TD? They essentially they terminated their 401k. They didn't terminate. Now people can still defer money into the 401k. Okay, they can still do that from a tax point of view. But what they did instead is that they changed the whole bloody retirement plan to a cash balance plan.
Back to a defined benefit package.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's back to the future, so it's just because the 401k is horrible.
Yeah. Right. And IBM has historically been known as one of the premier best companies as far as for employee benefits and all that stuff. And it would make sense that they would be ahead of it. and making these calibrations.
Yeah, because I've looked at it because I have a number of clients who are engineers with IBM and the whole thing, and it's always great when I'm doing planning for people. People have really good benefit packages, and IBM, the people that have the pensions and the 401ks and all this stuff and wellness and all this. Really, it makes it really a good place to work. And IBM has really been at the vanguard of all that stuff. So. But again, something you're going to hear in the mainstream press. But I get into that in detail in the Pirates 3. So
yeah, and it's so funny because that is counterintuitive to everything you hear from Dave Ramsey to Jim Cramer to certainly everything on the Mockingbird mainstream media. And here you have a major corporation going back to a defined benefit plan. That is incredible. But we're getting the word out, and asking people to just do a little bit of research because look, we all can't be Barry Dykes. You've taken the time and you've quoted the sources and you've done that research. We're busy trying to live our life, raise our children, invest the best we know how into the future, do all these things that are so much more important. What are your 5 F's, Barry? You have what?
Well, my 5 F's, yeah, that's a good. Well, essentially, yeah, I kind of live my life. First, I call them the 5 F's. The first thing is my faith. That's the most important thing. Yeah, it's my creation with a creator. And I couldn't do this work without my faith in God. I just couldn't do it. Number 2 is family, of course. Families. Faith is first, family is second. Why do we do all this? Why do we work so hard? It's not just about me. It's about my children and the people who I'm really interconnected to. So it's really, I couldn't do it because it's not just about me. The third, obviously, is friends. No one does any of this stuff on their own, TD. I certainly don't. I couldn't do this. I mean, I've been very blessed. People like Nelson Nash and Bob Castellano, founder of Leap Systems, and a lot of other people have become really good friends and mentors, and a lot of fans of development industry who've become really heartfelt friends who've really encouraged me to go on. Hang on one second. Sorry about this. Hang on. And then fitness. Which is, you got to be physically fit. I mean, I'm getting older, whatever, but fitness and eating right and all that stuff is, it's crucial. I mean, because they're polluting the food system like they're polluting the monetary system. So, getting back to the farm, getting organic and stuff, there's a lot of, you feel better and having exercise and all that stuff and good sleep and all that stuff. And then the last thing is really finances. It's really, really important, and I think, but those are kind of the priorities. So my faith, my family, my friends, my fitness, and then finance. So it's in the top. It's really, really important. Okay, because having right finance, you can have better relationships with your family and all else. But really, I couldn't do it without my faith first.
And that's why I wanted to have you on, because we're all, I mean, I would say if you're a Christian, you would have the same priority structure as Barry and myself. And while finances are important, they are much further down the list, which is why I think it's critical and essential that you find good voices of value and dive in, because they've kind of already done a lot of the research. Now, you don't just want to blindly accept it. You want to validate it and verify it. But the rest of us, just like Barry, we're all, it's our faith, our family, our friends, our health. And this is everything that our channel is about. And yeah, finances are on there, and don't become so bogged down with that. Use good resources, listen to voices of value, and then develop your own strategy, or borrow a strategy, or implement multiple strategies. That was the main reason, these books, Pirates of Manhattan 1 and 2, and then the Guaranteed Income book. There's great information. There's it's all cited, and I want to encourage you to go over to Barry. Your website is barryjamesdyke.com.
Yeah, Barry. Yeah, people can sign up for it because everyone, one of the downsides of me, I get so busy in the research and running a business. I know I'm not the greatest communicator unless I'm doing podcasts and things like that. But yeah, people they can sign up, buy the books, or they can sign up. So I'll let them know when the next 2 books are coming out. Just wrapping these books has been a Herculean task, TD. I mean, I said, well, heck, I've written 3 books. The last one shouldn't be too hard. So, man, I couldn't do it without my faith, man. This has been hard. I mean, but I can see it. God's like, keep going, just keep going, keep going. And so it's been really, really difficult. But I know it's going to help people in the end.
That's what we appreciate. We appreciate the information. It's a lot of hard work. It will pay off. As unfortunately, I think the mainstream is always going to be mainstream. And this is something that Nelson Nash talked about, is if we could just educate 3 to 10%, it's not like, don't try to convince everybody, because it's just not going to happen. It's not a reality, but we're just looking for 10 people. If each of us could reach 10 people with the truth, and then they could have some fundamentals to build an infrastructure on for their life. And we would certainly hope that it would be faith, family, friends, food, and finances. I mean, what an incredible legacy. And then you've written these 3 books. You have 2 more coming to build on this foundation, to provide this information to the rest of us that are trying to build this hierarchical infrastructure, right? Where finance is at the bottom, even though it's incredibly important, and it's very difficult to eat if your finances if you are in financial distress. And the other thing, if you're in financial distress, you cannot help anyone else. You certainly can't leave a legacy for your children. So all of this information is critical. And I think Barry is an incredible resource. Sign up for his newsletter, because you'll be notified when the new books come out. I can't wait. I just wish I had a little bit more time to read, but I'm working on that.
Yeah, it's hard. So yeah, even my office staff. So hopefully I'll be coming with audiobooks, and
great.
I probably would do it with AI or whatever. But it's I didn't do it because of a long story I had with Amazon, so I stopped doing it. But the next one will probably be Amazon. But tell people to go to my website to buy them. Now, my books, there's resellers in some of my books, TD, and some people paying like $100 a copy. I was like, on my books, like, but they can buy on my website for $28. But there's actually people do it. There's nothing I can do about it. But there's actually people who resell my books for $100.
You're great.
I mean, it's just nothing I can do about it. It's capitalism. But
yeah.
So you can go to my website, or you can go to Amazon. But some people, they're selling my books. Some is $100 a copy.
Well, Bear, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for all this research, all the Herculean effort that goes into it. It's certainly not lost on me. We greatly appreciate it. Looking forward to the books that are coming out. And hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching, for listening, and for following the Fearless Podcast. This is a value for value proposition. So if you love and enjoy the information that we bring you, please go over to TheTexasBoys.com. And if you're looking for some organic raw honey, or some coffee, or maybe some merch, check us out over there. It supports the cause, and we love and appreciate y'all. And remember, stay fearless, my friends.